Welcome to the Success Sculpting Show with Stephen Pierce, bringing you the right information right now to sculpt a more meaningful and memorable life of success. Join us each week to discover gems to help you grow your mental toughness, expand your will to win, and multiply your results. It's never been easier to learn what to do and how to do it to succeed at what you choose to do. This is truly an experience you won't find anywhere else. Now, here's your host, the success sculptor himself, Stephen Pierce.
Hey, welcome to another episode of the Success Sculpting Show. I'm you-know-who, Stephen Pierce, and today we are going to look at the winner's therapy. Yes, all winners, no matter what field you choose, sports, business, entertainment, you name it. They all have this therapy in common. Every single one of them. Yes, they all have therapy. And we're going to talk about what that is, but we're going to talk today about the winner's therapy to overcome FUD, right? Because the FUD factor is something that a lot of people's lives and dreams and futures and legacies are drowning in. And for those of you that don't know what FUD is fear, uncertainty, and doubt. Fear, uncertainty, and doubt. And unfortunately, that has a greater influence on most people's mindsets and lives than just about anything else, right? I want you to think about somebody that's under the influence of alcohol, right? And the unfortunate accidents that happen when a person that is intoxicated gets behind the wheel of an automobile or any kind of transportation and driving under that influence. They lose a sense of what's really going on. And as a result of that, they end up crashing, many times killing themselves, and more times than necessary, killing other people that are basically innocent bystanders, but will be considered collateral damage to the person that was driving under the influence. Now, I'm telling you this for a reason. A lot of people live their lives under the influence of fear, under the influence of uncertainty, under the influence of doubt. And just like a driver's ability to drive is impaired from alcohol, your ability to navigate your life, to drive forward productively in your life becomes impaired when you're living your life under that influence. Now think about it. If a drunk driver, somebody that is highly intoxicated under the influence of alcohol or drugs, but right now we're just going to talk about alcohol, gets behind the wheel of a car, does it matter if it's a $25,000 car or a $250,000 car or $1 million car? Doesn't even matter. The only difference is one is going to be a more expensive wreck, but it doesn't matter what the vehicle is. The driver is under the influence, so they're going to wreck whatever vehicle they get into. Why is that important? Because if we live our life under the influence of fear and uncertainty and doubt, it doesn't matter what vehicles are available to us to change our life. Whether we're looking to change our bodies, we're looking to change our finances, change our relationships. There's multiple vehicles to do that. But regardless of the vehicle, we are still the drivers. And we're going to wreck whatever it is we get involved with because of what we are under the influence of. You understand what I'm saying? So we want to talk about that. We want to talk about that. And we're going to get to what could be a solution, right? And that's the winner's therapy. But I want you to think about your life for a second. And I want you to consider all the different things you have not done. In fact, we're going to talk about the raw truth about failure. Now, don't get me wrong. Something not working out that you're doing is not considered failure. Right. I don't look at figuring something out while you're doing something and it doesn't work. I don't necessarily consider that to be a failure. For me, the ultimate definition of failure is to failure to do anything. If you're doing something and it's not necessarily working out, but you're figuring it out, that's progress. Right. That's progress. That's learning. Right. And that's something everyone has to deal with. For me, and again, this is just my personal opinion and my personal view on failure. For me, the definition of failure is the failure to do anything at all. So what is the raw truth of failure? In fact, RAW is going to be an acronym all right? And it's R-A-W, for those that don't know how to spell raw, but I know you do. Okay, so, and by the way, every one of those letters, the R-A-W, they all kind of have their roots in fear, uncertainty, and doubt. So what is R? R is reluctance. You're reluctant to do very specific things that you know could change your life, change your business, change your relationships, change your health, change whatever. You are reluctant to do it. For example, in business, one of the big things that is known, especially in the sales, in the world of sales, is what's called call reluctance. The reluctance to make the calls, whether it's cold calling, follow-up calling, whatever it is, there's a reluctance to make the call. Heck, some people are reluctant to call warm leads that are coming in from advertising campaigns. But there's a reluctance. And why is the person reluctant, or why are you reluctant to do things? You know the thing to do, but you're pumping the brakes and you're reluctant to do it. If you think about it, you're in your mind, you're future pacing yourself somewhere with a fear, an uncertainty, and a doubt. There's something you're afraid of. There's something you're a little uncertain about in the negative sense, because uncertainty doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing. You can be uncertain on how well something's going to turn out, just as well as you can be uncertain on how bad in your mind something's going to turn out, right? And then you may be reluctant because some element of doubts that you have. Now, where do we tend to get these fears, uncertainties, and doubts? It's interesting in how the brain works, right? We have two key elements of our brain, our mind, that we're using every single day: our memory and our imagination. Every single moment as we navigate, we're using our memories and we're using our imaginations. And unfortunately, in the world of FUD, when we're under the influence of FUD, what we are remembering with our memory are certain things that didn't necessarily go well, certain things that you may felt in your mind in terms of how you define failure. They failed. They were painful. They were shameful. Certain things that's like, man, I don't want to experience that again, right? Now we use our imagination. We use our imagination where we then start to project, oh, if I do that, the very thing that I fear is going to happen. Right, so now we're using our own imagination against us, which, by the way, our memory and our imagination are incredibly beautiful things when we use them to serve us as opposed to using them to sabotage us. And remember, they're our thoughts, right? We get to choose what we remember and how we remember it. We get to choose what we project forward in terms of what we imagine and how we imagine it. You have the equal right and the equal opportunity and the equal ability to imagine something going well as you do imagine something going wrong. So why in the world would we choose to use our own imagination to imagine the worst possible thing happening to the point that we don't look at a contingency plan to keep moving forward if that thing happens, but we use that as a reason to not take the action. We use that as, hey, you know what? I'm just not going to do it. So now all of a sudden we're reluctant, and then that takes us to A, in raw avoidance, avoiding certain things that are necessary. Think about this. Think about someone that wants to be a professional fighter. MMA fighter, boxer, you name it. But they want to avoid conflict. How's that going to work out for them? How is that going to work out for them? Not going to work out well, because the very nature of combative sports is about engaging in what? It's about engaging in physical conflict. But if you're afraid of getting hurt, you're so fearful of getting punched in the face. I remember when I was growing up and living in a neighborhood, I was in Maryland. I think I was in Landover, Maryland, somewhere around in that area in PG County. And as a young buck, I wasn't the straightest kid on the block. I remember I got into a fight with a guy, and I kind of beat the snot out of him. And then he called his cousin into town. And it was one night, it was really dark outside, and we lived in like this apartment complex, and his cousin came out, and I'm having a chat with someone else. I knew he was calling his cousin, and they came over, and I'm just going to tell you right now, the only thing I remember as I was blacked out laying on my back. He sucker punched me, and by the time I got up, he was gone. Never came back to the neighborhood so that we can do the deal the right way, right? If we're going to throw hands, look, no cheap shots. Let's if you beat me fair and square, that's cool. By the way, this was back in the day when people weren't shooting each other, right? People weren't knifing each other. It was knuckle up all day long, right? But if you were afraid of a street fight, if you were afraid of getting hit, you were going to avoid the conflict. And on the streets, that shows weakness. And then people will start to prey on that weakness. And I don't know if you ever been hit in the face, in the mouth, so hard that you just fall out and you can't even remember everything other than, man, your mouth is all jacked up and you're just trying to figure out what happened. Well, if you don't take a punch, how do you know you can take a punch? See, a lot of people talk about how bad they are, how good they are, how sharp they are, how much faith they got, and all this stuff. But you never really know what you're made of until you're put in a position and you get that squeeze, right? You get that squeeze. For example, if I handed you a can of potpourri, let's just say it said strawberry potpourri on the can, and you wanted to have your room or your office or your house or your car, wherever it is you're at, you want that to smell like strawberry potpourri. You want it to smell like strawberries. So I hand you the can of strawberry potpourri, and then you start to spray it, and red spray paint comes out. What is it? It's red spray paint, man. It's red spray paint. Regardless of what the can said, regardless of the label, and regardless of the design, the moment you put pressure on the top of that can, what is on the inside comes out. That's how life is, man. We call ourselves all kinds of things. We use social media to manipulate people's realities and try to create these pictures of ourselves and of our lives that aren't real. We parade around peacocking like we're something that we're not. But in the moment when you have to show up and you have to demonstrate whatever it is, what is on the inside, when that pressure hits you, what is on the inside is going to come out. In other words, if you parade around all confident, but when it's time to put it to it, you run, you're a coward. That's what's on the inside. Now, listen, we have to be real with the fact, you know what, I ain't like the way I've responded like a coward, bro, man. I gotta fix this. Long as we fix it and we don't try to minimize it and we don't try to hide it and we don't try to justify it, it's okay. Because it's revealing to us where we are, and we don't have to stay there. We don't have to stay in that spot. But what we have to do is we have to understand that, look, you can fake out these people that may be looking at you and don't know what's going on behind the scenes, but you can't fake out your future. Your future is going to show up based on who you really are, not who you pretend to be, right? So we have to kind of deal with the raw truth on why we are where it is we are. And one is we're reluctant to do the things that's going to change our lives. We're avoiding certain things, avoiding what you may consider to be pain. You don't want to be rejected, so you don't go and make the calls or reach out to people for your network marketing business or your new business or getting coaching clients or consulting clients or whatever it is. So you avoid the things that you feel as if are going to produce that pain, right? And what's the W? The W is waiting. You're waiting. You're waiting to exhale. Remember that movie? And listen, if you're waiting to exhale, you're going to die of suffocation, right? Because you need to breathe. So we need to stop waiting. But here's the thing. For a lot of people, waiting is code for procrastination, right? They're waiting. What you waiting on? Most people know enough to get started, but they're waiting. They're waiting and they're waiting and they're waiting. Bro, look, man, stop waiting and get going. But for a lot of us, we find a great deal of comfort in waiting. We find a great deal of comfort in waiting. What are you waiting for? Are you waiting for people's approval? Are you waiting for the perfect time? There's no such thing as the perfect time. And screw other people's approval, right? Because most people are only going to approve you to do things that they want you to do that somehow fits their agenda and not necessarily yours. So who cares? And by the way, most people will never approve of you to do something that they haven't even approved of themselves to do. So who cares, right? Everybody has their own criteria on why they say yes or no to opportunities or different things in life. When you're waiting for someone else's approval, what you're doing It's deferring your own standards, deferring your own reasons for theirs. You are switching off your own personal criteria and turning on theirs, waiting for them to give you the approval on if you should do it or not. Right? It's like a loan. Hey, you feel like you should get the loan, but the bank says, nah, dude, you don't qualify. So they can shut it down because it's their criteria and not yours. Right? And it's the same thing with making decisions in your life. If you're waiting for someone else to give you approval, you're using their criteria and not yours. And guess what? What is a coward going to give you approval to do? What is a lazy person going to give you approval to do? What is a fearful person going to give you approval to do? See, when you are waiting for someone else to give you approval, what you're doing is you're willing to adopt all of their biases, all of their prejudice, all of their fears, their uncertainties, and their doubts, because all of that goes into clouding and constructing the reasons why they say yes or no to certain things. So we have to kind of be careful in looking for the approval of others and waiting for other people to co-sign on our lives and on our dreams. That's not how we want to roll. But what are you waiting for? I'm waiting for more information. You ain't done nothing with the info you got. So what you waiting for more info for? Right? But somehow we convince ourselves that it's that next piece of information that we need. You know, I just need that next secret, that next tip, that next button to push, that next software, that next coach, that next event, that next workshop, that next audio, video, podcast, book, or whatever it is. No, you don't. No, you don't. You don't need the next anything. What you need to do is use what you already got, because most of us know enough to start. We come under our own hypnosis thinking we need just a little bit more before we begin. Hey, start with where you are. Listen, in the last podcast, we talked about the 6 types of actions you can take. And I want you to keep this in mind. When it comes down to whatever actions you take, 1 of 3 things are going to happen. Your life is going to get better from your actions. Your life is going to get worse from your actions, or your life is going to stay the same. And when I say stay the same, I don't really mean it's going to stay the same, right? There's an old saying that says, what is it? If you keep on doing what you're doing, and you could probably finish it, right? You're going to keep on getting what you got. And a lot of people believe that lie. And that's exactly what it is. Oh, it sounds good, but it's a big old lie. Because to believe that if you keep on doing what you're doing, you're going to keep on getting what you got is to say nothing else outside changes. That you are the determining factor of all the external changes. Economy changes, weather changes, politics changes, society change, all these different things change. In fact, your body changes. You can sit there in your chair and do nothing. You're going to grow old. Your cells are going to regenerate. Your toenails and fingernails are going to grow. Your hair is going to grow or fall out, depending on how old you are. Your teeth are going to do something, right? You're going to get hungry. You're going to gain weight, lose weight. Well, if you do nothing, like you don't eat, then you're going to end up losing weight, right? And based on the statistics, I think a lot of us may want to consider that plan. At least eating a little bit less. But you understand what I'm saying? There's always something changing. Think about 2007, 2008. How many people during that time kept on doing what they were doing, but they lost their jobs because of what was changing in the economy and in those companies that they had no control over? It's foolish to believe something just because so many people have said it for so long and you never check it at the door of reality. If you keep on doing what you're doing, chances are it's going to get worse, not better, by default, because of all the other things that are putting pressure on your life and on your position that are already changing, right? So we don't want to buy into that foolish thinking, man. All right. So now we talked about raw. We talked about reluctance, avoidance, and waiting. You know what we're going to do? We're going to flip that word. We're going to flip it. Let's switch the R and the W. And instead of raw, now we got war. It's a mindset, that war-like mindset, right? War. And yeah, it's another acronym. But what does war stand for? It's pretty simple. And this is the mindset I've tried to continue to have for years. War for me represents being willing and ready. Willing and ready. Now, what do I mean by willing and ready? Willingness is about the mindset behind everything that you do. And ready is about the skill set, being able to do what it is you're going to do. So being willing and ready is not being interested. It's not even being committed. How many people made a commitment and then broke their commitments? Isn't that like marriage and divorce? People commit to get married and then they break the commitment, right? So it's really all about a mindset in how you approach everything, a very aggressive, warlike mindset, knowing that every day you wake up and your 2 feet hit the floor, not only is it great to be alive and be above the ground, but your 2 feet just hit the battleground. That's it. And if you know that you just hit the battleground, what do you have to do? You have to get to war. You have to get to war, man. You got to get to it. Get to it. Stop relaxing. Stop being on cruise control. Stop waiting for the mother bird to come to the nest and feed you. Stop waiting for the rescue squad to kick your door in and save you. Put on your war gear and go out there and get and take legally what you believe is your inheritance here on this earth for the time that you're here. Go to war. Be willing, and that's all about mindset. And I'm going to give you one key mindset, which, by the way, unwillingness, fear, uncertainty, and doubt. Fear, uncertainty, and doubt. And what is that going to? If you're reluctant, are you willing? No, it's the polar opposite. If you're avoiding the things that's going to help you to make significant progress, is that willingness? No. If you're waiting and waiting and waiting, are you willing? No. You got to just go do it, man. And then you want to be ready. What is ready? Train your skills, right? Go out there and train your skills. What skills is the primary skill that you need? Look, for most things, to me, see, you can be considered an expert at what it is you do based on, whatever techniques and that you learn in your school, whether you're a dentist or a doctor or an accountant or I don't know, whatever it is. Maybe you're a teacher. I don't know what it is you do. You can be considered an expert because of those certain things that you learned on how to execute those things. But for me, the primary skill set that makes the difference is your ability to market what it is you have for yourself or for your employer or for your business partners or your business or whoever it is you're working with. Right? Now, I'm not saying that's the only skill set you'll want to have or need, but to me, sales and marketing are two primary skill sets, especially if you're an entrepreneur. And I talked about this before. A lot of people play entrepreneurship as opposed to participate in entrepreneurship. They want to look like entrepreneurs, sound like entrepreneurs, and move like entrepreneurs, but they don't live like entrepreneurs. It's a totally different game. I've seen it many times behind the scenes. I've seen the bipolar personalities of people up close and personal, where behind the scenes, it is anything but entrepreneurship. But how they just put on the mask in front of people is amazing. It's absolutely amazing, the level of deception that goes on out there. And you have to have the ability to read through it or just ignore it and stop trying to live your life based on what you see other people portraying. Social media has allowed everyone to anoint themselves as something without having to have any type of bona fide resume. And I talked about this before in a previous podcast. People parade around calling themselves best-selling authors, and they don't have a best-selling book that you can find. No best-selling list, no best-selling books, but they can get away with just saying it because most people are so gullible they're going to believe it. Today, technology has amplified what we can say and how we can influence people to the point that we can self-anoint ourselves to be something that we're not qualified to be. And the unsuspecting person that has no type of criteria to qualify or disqualify people who they're going to listen to would just take it in. Weak-mindedness. And maybe we'll talk about weak-mindedness on another episode, but we're not going to get into that right now. But you have to guard your mind, man. You have to guard your mind because that is also one of the battlegrounds, which we'll talk about that in another episode. Okay, so now what is the solution? What is this winner's therapy that I was talking about? What is it? Well, it is what is considered to be a cognitive behavioral psychotherapy, if you want to know the technical definition of it. And that's how they kind of define the whole thing. But for me, it is the primary way to deal with FUD head on. Those fears, those uncertainties, and doubts. I'm not going to dive too deep in it. You can go and Google it. There's tons of information out there on it. And I don't know if there's any courses on it, but I think you can get the gist of it. To me, you don't need a course on it. You just need to go do it. Now, what is it? Drum roll, please. That's my little drum roll. It is called exposure therapy. Exposure therapy is really all about exposing yourself to whatever those things are that create anxiety and fear. It's the exact opposite of avoidance. You avoid those things, which, by the way, let me share something with you. If there's anything that comes into your life that you know is something you need to do, or you should choose to do, or you must do, or have to do, need to do, however you want to define it and classify it, that's going to help you to improve your life and move your life forward, and you don't do it. You're reluctant, so you stay still. You avoid it, or you continue to wait, coming up with all kinds of rationales on why you need to wait. What you are doing is strengthening the coward. And it makes it easier to avoid the next thing that creates some type of fear, uncertainty, and doubt. It makes it easier to wait again, right? You're strengthening the coward. A part of exposure therapy is strengthening the courageous part of yourself. You just, boom, you just hit it. You just go. You don't even think about it. You just go. For example, let's just talk about cold calling. Let's just say you have a business. You know, man, if you got on the phone and made some cold calls to professionals or whomever your target market is, you know that you can probably more quickly generate some leads and get some sales and start pulling in some customers, clients, patients, or whatever it is, right? But you're reluctant to make those calls. You're avoiding the pain of people hanging up on you and rejecting you and saying no and all this other kind of stuff. And you're waiting for the perfect script or the perfect time of day. Oh, it's too early. Oh, it's too much in the middle of the day. Oh, it's too late. So you're waiting. Well, you're strengthening the cowards. So it's going to make it easier next time to not make the call. But if you just, boom, pick up the phone and just do it. I mean, you literally, no script. Because this is not about the perfection of the execution. This is about the dealing with whatever it is that is holding you back, the fear, the uncertainty, and the doubt. Even if you picked up the phone and you just called and just said, hey, at least you're getting over the fear of picking up the phone and starting the conversation. So exposure therapy is about exposing yourself to the elements that you're avoiding, to the things that create that intimidation or that anxiety or those fears or those doubts. Hey, listen, you doubt if it's going to work. Well, how the hell do you know if you don't do it? You doubt. Now here's the crazy part, because it's our mind and it's our brain. This is the local crazy part. You want it to work. Your own mind, your own ambitions, your own desires. You want it to work. But then you also, remember, scripture say a double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. So the other side of your brain and of your mind says, but I doubt that it will. So what do you think is going to happen to your ability to take action? You want it to work, but you doubt that it will? Think about, hey, we are our own worst enemy most of the time. Most of the time. Who cares if other people say you can, and who cares if other people say you can't? The only thing that really makes the difference is what you're believing in your own brain, in your own mind. You want this thing to work, but you doubt. Oh, man, I doubt that that's going to work, so why am I going to do it? Well, dang, dude. I mean, look, I get it. I get if you have some doubts. And by the way, let me say this. Because I don't want you to think that living your life is a life that is absent of fear and uncertainties and doubts. That is not the case at all. You're going to always have certain fears and uncertainties and doubts. The key is being able to move forward despite the fears, the uncertainties, and the doubts. Because when you move forward, it's like, boom, you know what? I'm going to blast through this fear. It's not going to control me, right? And I'm going to deal with this uncertainty by being certain about certain things. For example, you may be uncertain about something, but you can also be certain that you're going to do your best. You're certain that you're going to follow through. You're certain you're going to make a certain number of calls. You're certain that you're going to deliver the presentation a certain way. You can bring a level of control of certainty that you have to a situation or an environment that may produce a level of uncertainty. So what you can do is focus on what you're certain about as opposed to what you're uncertain about. See, if you're certain that you can give your absolute best, then who the hell cares about what all the other uncertainties are? Listen, every time two teams or two players go onto a field or a court to engage in mutual competition, they better not be uncertain about if they're going to win. And if they are, they better find some level of certainty that they can execute their position or execute their role with a certain level of excellence that gives them a higher probability of winning. Because we know in competitive sports, somebody's going to walk away with an L. They lost the game. They lost the competition. Somebody's going to walk away with the W. Now, let me ask you, if you lost the game, you lost the match, and you kept on thinking about that going into the next one, what's going to happen? This goes back to the memory and the imagination again. Right? If you keep on remembering you lost and how you lost, how is that going to impact your ability to win the next time you meet that opponent, or the next time you go into the arena, or the next time you make the sales call, or the next time you look to start another business, or the next time you go do a presentation, or whatever that next time is, if you have the resiliency to bounce back and have that intestinal fortitude to even go do it again. If you're only going to remember what you lost or what you think you lost, you're going to be feeding that forward in a negative way, and that's not going to help your present performance, and it's certainly going to have a negative effect on how you imagine your performance in the future. So life is a life of battles. War, be willing and ready. Get the right mindset. Get the right skill set. That is our own personal responsibility. Nobody's going to think for you and do for you. Nobody's going to think for me and do for me. I have to have the right mindset. You need to have the right mindset. I have to have the right skill set. You have to have the right skill set. Those are our personal responsibilities. We have to own that. Stop waiting for somebody to give you something. Go get it. Whatever it is you want, go get it. And by the way, if you're looking to build a business, what you want is out there amongst a whole lot of other people. So if you have a fear of talking to people, you may want to get over that real quick. How do you do it? Go talk to people. Just go and start talking to people. So here's the challenge for you, okay? Here's the challenge. I want you to make a list of 3 to 5 things that you have been fearful of doing. And you know what's going to come next. I want you to just go do them. I don't even want you to think about how you're going to do them. I don't want you to start shuffling papers on your desk and organizing folders on your computer or doing any kind of foolish, distracting things. I just want you to make your list of 3 to 5 things and just do it. Just don't even think about it. Just boom, do it. Hey, even if you do it badly, you did it. Right? Because remember, mindset and skill set. Mindset is first, because that's like 80% of the game, if not 90% of the game, but then it's skill set. So if you can get the proper mindset and just do the thing, you're going to develop the skill set. Which, by the way, because even if you had a good skill set now, but you never used it, your skill set is not refined, because the only way you can refine any skill set is to use the skills that you have. No matter how good you may think you are at something, or how good you may do something in practice, you got to put it in the battlefield. You got to put it in the game. It has to come against opposition. It has to come up against competition. It has to come up against resistance. So you can then see where your skills really are and where your mindset really is. It's the only way, my friend. It's the only way to be refined. It's that fiery furnace of the battlefield. Right. And you know the old saying, gold is purified in fire, and, the severe pressure on rocks that create diamonds and all this kind of stuff. We don't need to go there, because if that ain't help you then, it ain't going to help you now. We can have all these nice little things, but we need to just say, hey, listen, I don't need no more quotes. I don't need no more motivational videos to make me feel good and get all warm. You could pee in your pants and get warm. Kind of nasty, but you're still warm. We don't need warm and fuzzy. We need to be willing and ready, and we need to have the mindset and the skill set and go out there, bang it out, and get it done. That's it. That's it. Shake it off. Okay, if you're afraid of something, all right, okay, cool. I'm uncertain. All right, cool. Hey, but I'm going to go do it. I have some doubts. All right, I'm going to go do it anyway. That's it. But what's going to be amazing is that you're going to find out how the fears were unfounded, the uncertainty was unnecessary, and the doubts were ridiculous. Because you'll start to discover who you really are the moment you start to expose yourself to those things. And you will become a better man and woman as a result of it. There's nothing that's going to help shape you and sculpt you more than taking action. And not just taking any kind of action, but taking actions that take you straight into the thing that you're avoiding, the things that you're reluctant to do, the things you're waiting on. Just go for it. Go for it, man. Go for it. Hey, that's it for today. Be sure to tune in to the next episode. We're going to be talking about something. I don't know what it is, but you just be sure to stay tuned because most high willing, it's going to be some good stuff. By the way, be sure to share the show. If you like the show, share the show. Share the Success Sculpting Show. That's it, ladies and gentlemen. I appreciate you listening in today, and I will, most high willing, speak to you next time.
Thanks for listening to the Success Sculpting Show with Stephen Pierce. If you like what you just heard, we hope you'll pass along our web address, successsculptingshow.com, to your friends and colleagues. Be sure to check out our archives of previous podcasts and check the schedule to join us for our next live streaming Success Sculpting Show webcast. This has been a Success Sculpting Incorporated production. Join us next time for another edition of the Success Sculpting Show with Stephen Pierce, and tell your friends.